Hey everyone, it's Marc Elias. I had a great opportunity to sit down with Alicia Menendez and Michael Steele and Simone Sanders as part of their new Weeknight show. And it was a really good opportunity to exchange ideas with them in a format that is really sort of unique. I mean, you can see from what I'm about to show you, we're all sort of sitting around the table and they're asking questions, but they're also jumping in with their own thoughts. And there's a lot of give and take between me and them and each other. So take a look at this and I'll be right back with some more thoughts.
Joining us now, someone who actually understands the Constitution, founder of Democracy Docket and partner at Elias Law Group, Marc Elias.
Well, does the Constitution, I can't even believe I got to say this stupid stuff. Does the Constitution, Marc Elias, grant every person who is in the country, whether they are a citizen of this country or not, due process? Does it? What does the Constitution say?
Yes, it does. And it's that simple. And the only quibble I have with the Congresswoman's question, which was a good question, is she asked, do you believe? It actually doesn't matter what Kristi Noem believes. The fact is the Constitution guarantees due process under the law to every person in the United States, period.
Can we just clarify on the person part? Because that seems to be the other hook that we see being played out right now, is that, well, you don't qualify if you are here illegally, that the Constitution somehow doesn't attach to you. That would presume to me that if a family from Russia or Afghanistan or some other parts of the world came to the United States and in the course of their time here on vacation, the father goes off and commits a crime or gets caught up in a negative situation, would or would not the Constitution protect him in terms of the idea of due process? In other words, we wouldn't just throw him in jail. Now, we'd probably kick him out of the country, but there is a process regardless, right? Or am I...
You're 100%. Okay. You're 100% correct.
I mean, maybe we don't understand.
Maybe because the point, because that's it. I mean, why do they think that they could play us as stupid when we are reading the words in the 200-year-old document that says persons, not, U.S. citizens, not this or that, but identifies more broadly the scope of what's intended?
Right. And you have to understand the historical context of the Civil War amendments, which were that they were trying specifically to make clear that everyone, including the recently freed slaves, including people who might not have yet learned that they were freed slaves, right, were entitled to due process of law. In other words, this was not a hypothetical. It's not like they were extraneous with their words. They wanted to be very, very clear that in this country, if you are a person, you are entitled to due process of law. Now, what process is due can change under the circumstances.
Sure.
But you are entitled to due process of law. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, knows what the law is, just as the advisors to Donald Trump know what the law is. And they are, as you say, they are disregarding it. I mean, the fact is that you cannot know that someone is or is not part of any particular gang unless they have some process to say, I am or am not. Otherwise, honestly, they could say you're a member of the gang, right? And everybody watching this needs to understand that if you allow the government to say who is and is not covered by some act, whether it's an act that allows them removal from the country, an act that allows people to be in prison, whatever it is, if the government gets to decide that without any process that challenges it, without any ability to proclaim your innocence, without any ability to put on some defense, then there's no one who's safe. There's no citizen who's safe. There's no legal resident who's safe. There's no one who's safe. And that is where they'll go. And I just want to point this out. 105, 106 days ago, whenever it was, we were worried when Donald Trump came into office that he would target what he said, the worst of the worst, and what that might look like without due process. We are now only 3.5 months in, and we already have U.S. citizens, children, being sent out of the country.
Children with cancer.
Children with cancer. People who are being sent out of the country in violation of court orders. And so everybody needs to wake up. We're only 100 days in, and this is how far the goalposts have moved. Just imagine what it will look like another 100 or 500 or 1,000 days from now. Yeah, look, I think that Donald Trump is hoping to build an extra legal, outside the legal system, a coalition. One could call it a gang. one could call it a militia. One could call it a cult, whatever it is. But he wants to build this cadre of people who are loyal to him and who will carry out his agenda when it comes to undermining free and fair elections. And, I think the secretary, as she knows, the Department of Justice right now is withdrawing its support from case after case after case around this country when it comes to voting rights. They are standing down in protecting the right to vote. They are flipping against black voters and other minority voters in these cases. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice has already filed in federal court in Colorado what's called a statement of interest to say that the Department of Justice, have an interest in this frankly state prosecution, which would, as you say, normally go through the state court system, and if there were appeals as things, they'd go through the state courts.
What are you looking for? What are some of the triggers that you're looking for to sort of the warning sign? They're about to make this move, or about to do that.
Okay, look, the fight of our generation is a fight for democracy, and core to that is free and fair elections. Donald Trump knows that the greatest risk he has to his power is at the ballot box. And so they are going to do everything they can to prevent there from being free and fair elections. They are going to engage in voter suppression, election subversion. They'll try to pass legislation. They'll try to pass state legislation in states where they control the process. They will try to put election deniers in office. And it is ultimately going to boil down to whether or not people will stand up. The secretary is an excellent example of someone who stands up every day for free and fair elections and for democracy. There are people in the media like you who every day are standing up for free and fair elections and democracy. There are too few lawyers doing it right now, but there are lawyers who are doing it. And the question is whether or not the American public will insist that we have free and fair elections and we don't let Donald Trump and the election deniers win. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did in doing it. And there are a couple of things here that I want to make sure to highlight for you. The first is that, Donald Trump is an authoritarian, and he is slowly but surely moving the goalposts of what is acceptable in this country. As I pointed out in those clips, he is fundamentally rejecting the notion of due process of law for everyone in this country. And if he can do that for people who are immigrants, if he can do that for people who are migrants who may not be here legally, then he's eventually going to be able to do that for you and for me. And if you think that somehow there is a limiting principle that he will abide by, then you have not been paying attention to Donald Trump. And so that is the first thing I wanted to point out. The second is we had a really good conversation with Jenna Griswold, who is the Secretary of State of Colorado, who joined, as you saw, about what it means to have free and fair elections and why Donald Trump continues to be fixated and focuses so much of his time and energy in protecting election deniers, and why, in my view, he is building this sort of coalition or this cult of people who will, who will be loyal to him through thick or thin, regardless of what the outcome of an election is, regardless of what the law may be, and how we really need to be paying attention to that. And finally, the need for everyone to stand up and have civic courage. It's not enough for just some people to be willing to step forward and confront what Donald Trump is doing. We all need to be willing to do that in our daily lives. And so one of the ways that we're doing that here at Democracy Docket is by trying to do more content on YouTube. So please take a second to make sure you are subscribed to Democracy Docket on YouTube by clicking the subscribe button, and also hit the bell, because that will make sure that you are alerted whenever there is new content posted. And I think that's a really important way that we are trying to provide you access to free information and analysis about what's happening with democracy in what is a very complicated time. It's something we are learning and getting better at, and hopefully you will share that journey along with us. I'd also be remiss if I didn't say to make sure that you're also subscribed to Democracy Docket's free daily and weekly newsletters. The link to that is above and in the show notes below, and we will see you next time.